Blame the British. Yes. Have you ever had a terrible train journey? I don't know, train delay, train cancellation, smelly train, noisy train, slow train, just a nasty train, maybe even cold coffee served on a train. If you've suffered this at any point in your life, then you can blame the British. Let me explain. It will all make perfect sense. George Stephenson, he's the man to blame, and of course he was British, so you might as well blame all British people for his crazy invention, the invention of the train. And get this, George Stephenson couldn't read or write until he was 18 years old. What's all that about? There was no free education in Britain. George was born in 1781 to parents who couldn't read or write, and his father worked in the local coal mine just outside of Newcastle. And so of course George followed his father at a very young age because, remember, he didn't go to school, and he worked down the pit. But at the age of 18 he decided to blow some of his wages and enrolled himself in night school and learned a little bit of reading, a bit of writing, and a smidge of arithmetic. He just thought he could do with improving his status. And talking about improving his status, the coal mine owners recognised in George Stephenson this kind of natural ability to fix stuff. George was a natural engineer. Now remember, this is the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, something else we can blame the British for. Industrial Revolution means steam power. But the steam engines around when George was young were fixed steam engines. They didn't move from A to B. They just kind of pumped water and that kind of thing, but very powerful. Anyway, George was very good at fixing them. In fact, he was described as an engineering genius. He could fix these steam engines, but he also improved them. And this is how he became to be known as the father of the railways. So over a couple of decades of George Stephenson, the guy that couldn't read or write till he was 18, building this reputation as a major engineer, in 1825, George Stephenson drove the very first passenger-pulling steam locomotion train in the world. In fact, there it is. Look at it. There it is. There's a painting of the very train. It was called Locomotion Number 1. And get this, George Stephenson, the guy that couldn't read or write until he was 18, even built that train. How annoying is that? 27th of September 1825 is the day to remember. The Stockton to Darlington railway line, when George Stephenson drove Locomotion Number 1, pulling 80 tons of coal and a passenger car. Yes, a passenger carriage full of human beings. The world's first passenger rail travel occurred on that day. That day in 1825 was truly the birth of passenger rail travel. So irritating that for 200 years, because of George Stephenson and the British, the world has had safe and fast travel by rail, transporting goods, people, ideas, wealth and democracy to billions of people around the world, and not forgetting your dreadful train journeys on the way to work. So there we have it. Another very good reason to blame the British. I'm David Harper. Until next time, cheerio.